This is the Stop Time Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hopkins, and I'm here to engage you in thought-provoking, motivational conversations around practicing the art of living in the moment. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm excited to dig deep and offer insights into embracing who we are and where we are at. So I'm super excited to get to know my next guest. She's an award-winning director who shot her first feature film in 2019. She was able to finish it and release it during the pandemic, despite the barriers of no film festivals, closed down cinemas, and no live events. Her short films, music videos, and commercials have won numerous awards and been screened in over 20 film festivals. Her first feature under her own production company, REL Films, is a comedy about two best friends who go on a road trip gone wrong and find out what friendship means along the way. She has deep Midwest roots and finds humor in the most unlikely places. She works hard to bring intentional imagery and beauty to all of her projects and is grounded in a hard work ethic and focus. She has 3 other feature films slated for 2022 to 24, and I'm thrilled to say she stopped for a moment to be here with me today. Please welcome Ryann Liebl. Ryann, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
You said you're calling in from Florida today. Is that right?
Yes, I'm in Florida.
Have you been there for quite a while, or?
I've been here sort of part-time for about 2 years. And then when COVID happened, pretty full-time since that point forward.
Cool. But you're a Midwestern girl, right? So it must be a very different vibe for you, yeah?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Wisconsin, but I left Wisconsin when I was 18 and then went to LA and was there most of my life. I was in LA.
Yeah. Got it. You started out as an actress, is that correct?
I was at USC and I was getting a BFA in theater and a minor in film.
Oh, cool. And
then about 2.5 years in, I started working in the industry. So I started booking jobs and commercials and TV shows and stuff. And then I basically left school and I pursued that full time.
Very cool. So did you ever go back and finish, or?
I didn't. No.
You didn't. I love that. She's smiling, by the way, for those of you who are not watching. And is there any regret talk to me about that for a sec?
I think for me, because I was doing a BFA in theater and I knew I would never really teach theater, it didn't make a lot of sense. And I started to get more and more interested in film and filmmaking and screenwriting and production and all of that. And so that was really sort of what I ended up doing. And so I kind of wish I had actually studied film or done that full time, not as just a minor. Yeah, I think I would have gotten more out of the filmmaking. But it's okay. Like most, I feel like what I learned was just from being on set and actually doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than just studying it and studying the theory of it, which because I had been acting since I was a freshman in high school. And so I had been studying theater and all of that for many years before then. And I even did professional theater when I was in Wisconsin. So I knew about Yeats and Shakespeare. And, I had gotten those sort of fundamentals already, which I think are really important for anybody in terms of storytelling and all of that. So I don't know. Do I regret it? No, not really, because the most I ever learned was just actually from being on sets and observing and going through the process and then, failing and, shooting stuff and failing and doing it and failing and getting better and better and better as I sort of taught myself different aspects of production,
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And so it was an apprenticeship in a way, right? I mean, it's sort of a self-designed independent study, let's say.
Completely.
Yeah. It's amazing because I get the impression that you are not one to slow down much, and that's okay with you. Would that be true to say?
Yeah, again, I think my upbringing and my parents influenced me a lot in that way. My parents are very active and they're very productive and very industrious, and they don't really sit still. So, we didn't really chill a lot. I don't know how to explain it, but like I was out mowing the lawn or cleaning the gutters or cleaning windows. And my grandfather lived with us for a long time, and I was out doing stuff with him too. So I'm busy and I'm active and I'm productive, and that's where I'm happiest, you know.
It sounds like it was really modeled, right? And by your family, right? By your grandparents and your parents. And what's interesting about that too is that, it sounds like there was a variety of things. It wasn't just one thing that we're focused on, right? Sometimes we have parents that are really driven, but they're only focused on one thing, right? But it sounds like it was really everything they did. They applied the same kind of work ethic.
Well, yeah, and they're very interesting people. I mean, my mom's an interior designer. She sold real estate for a long time. She loves beauty and making things beautiful, which influenced me a lot as a filmmaker. So every frame, when I do movies or I do a music video or I do a commercial, the framing is really important to me. The art direction is really important to me. The way it looks is really important to me. My dad's a musician. He plays piano and organ, and he now runs the company that my grandfather started in the 1940s. Yeah, I mean, they were both artists in their own way, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so they never really distracted me or discouraged me from trying to pursue anything in the art field, because they were doing that themselves. So they always were like, yeah, go for it. Have fun. Try it. Do it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I have two sisters, and they're both pretty creative too.
And where do you fall in that? Are you the youngest, oldest, or middle?
I'm the middle. I'm the middle child.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's funny. There's a lot of performers I know who are middle kids, and I think they want attention.
Is that true for you? Do you think? Did you feel that?
I don't know. I'm funny. I'm actually, like, for somebody who's sort of in this field, I'm a very private person.
What were the breadcrumbs that you followed that led you to where you are today?
I had always considered myself somebody who wanted to perform. From a really young age, I was into musicals and music and acting, and I loved movies like Yentl. There was something about that story that really struck me. And I was young. I was 7 years old, I think, when it came out. And I could sing every song in that movie.
Yeah.
And my parents were so sweet. They would be like, Ryann, sing Yentl. And I'd sing it for them. So I was always like a performer, but I was very shy, I guess. And then in high school, about my freshman year, I started to go, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I can try this. I think I can. I'm an audition. I'm going to do it. And then I did. And then I got a part in the play Still Magnolias, which people know was made into a movie.
Yeah.
But it was originally a play. And but I had seen the movie with Julia Roberts, right? And so I kind of knew the story. And I was like, oh, I like that story. It's a fun story. And that was sort of the first thing that I did. And I was hooked after that. That was it for me.
That's cool. It's funny because I had a second part to that question, which was, again, my instinct, again, not really knowing you, like, did you follow or forge your way?
Definitely forge, because it's never come easy for me. I have to say that, like the art world and creating in the art world and the industry, and was sort of playing that game of trying to be liked or admired. That's never been something that I've done a very good job at. Does that make sense? Like a lot of actors I know or performers I know, they're very good at sort of putting on airs almost, but they're very good at playing the game.
Right.
And I've always been very much myself and an individual, and knew what I wanted and knew how I wanted it to go. And that was intimidating to people, and they didn't always understand it. And I had a lot of agents and people in Hollywood sort of say to me, well, you're too mature, or just funny things. They would say funny things. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So I think the driving force for me was always that I cared about it enough. And for me, the purpose behind it was more important than if people liked or admired me,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to help. I wanted to make art that helped people and affected them in a positive way. I wanted to uplift people. I wanted to add to the culture and make the culture better. And I wanted to bring beauty. And those are very big ideas and very big concepts. And, I knew other people who were happy just to get a credit. And that wasn't me. I wanted to do something that was going to matter to people, and make their life better. I wanted people to walk away, see something they did, walk away and feel better about their lives, or feel like they could go and do something that they couldn't do before, but now they could because they saw it,
Mm.
So it was, so Forge, because it's been me sort of constantly putting it there saying, okay, now I'm going to do this next thing. And now I'm going to do this next thing. And now I'm going to do this next thing. And not always having support along the way. A lot of the stuff that I've done has occurred because I've decided that it was going to occur.
Literally. Tell me more. Yeah. Tell me more. Yeah. I believe you.
Yeah. And I think ultimately that's what I think anybody sort of has to do, that or deal with that in their own way. But yeah, I think if you're ever trying to do anything big or that anything that matters or that's going to have a positive impact, the driving force has to be you. And that's what I started to look at too, sort of as my career evolved, and I was sort of going, okay, now I'm in this phase of my life. What am I going to do now? I really want to make movies. So now what am I going to do? I had to look to other people and go, well, how did they make that happen? And what I sort of started seeing over and over again was that people were producing their own material. They were writing their own material. They were sometimes, like Kevin Costner, he was putting his own money into things to make a movie happen because he couldn't get a studio to give him the money to make it happen. So he had to use his own money. Mm-hmm. And I was like, even when you're a name and even when you're a brand, you still have to be the person who says, okay, well, I really want this to happen, so I guess it's going to be me. And that's actually what a lot of people do in the industry. It's not talked about a lot. There are a lot of artists who think that everything's going to be handed to them or given to them, or that everybody's just going to fall over and roll out the red carpet and the dreams just will occur. And that's actually very much a false truth, if I could explain it. It's usually like anybody who's doing anything big is doing it because they're making it happen.
Yeah.
But it takes brass balls to do that.
Yep.
Because it means that you have to convince people. You become a very large salesman. You have to convince a lot of people to say, okay, you're worth it. You can do this,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, that you are leading by example, meaning that rather than you sort of fighting the system and saying, or going along with the system, you're kind of acknowledging and saying, or hating the system for the way it is. I'm hearing you say, this is the way it is. I still want to do it. There are other ways of doing it. It would be nice if the system would allow us all to do it, because we're all talented and we can all, we all have something to say. But so therefore I am going to do that. I am going to be the one. And the word that I was hanging on that you said was convince, because I don't feel like you needed to convince anybody, because you're not playing the game, right? So you only just have to live into your own beliefs. And that's what I meant by lead by example. Does that make sense to you? That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's an integrity point, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think any artist that I've ever met in the industry that I really admired or was sort of impressed by, because I've worked with a lot of different celebrities and I've been around a lot of different celebrities. They've got a lot of integrity, and they're very present, and they acknowledge everybody around them, and they work hard to make people feel good and feel accepted. And I think there's other kinds of celebrity, or there's other kinds of people in the industry who don't really care about that. No. And they are they're doing fame for the sake of fame. And I've been around that too. Yeah. And when you're in LA long enough, you see both. You see both of them.
Yeah. And everything in between.
Exactly.
The flip flopper. Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, it's literally talking about what lens you're looking through, right? So, but it's literally like life, right? How you lead your life. We all want to live a good life. We all want to make a movie, let's say, right? As the microcosm.
Totally.
So then it's like, how are you going to do that? There are many different ways, many different, and that's where I go like down the rabbit hole of like of energetic, the lenses we look through and how we approach each situation. And thank you for sharing that. I really love that. Yeah, I mean, forging. I'm not surprised that you answered as forge. Hey, I came across something that you said in an article. Do you mind if I share it?
Yeah, go for it.
Actually, this fits in beautifully. When someone tells me I can't, I say, watch me. I'm a firm believer in standing up for what's right. And I find if you can communicate, you can fix anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're living in very interesting times right now. Mm. I was born at a time when there was no internet and no social media. And I knew all my neighbors. I biked all over town and I talked to everybody. And then even when I went off to college, like I still, computers were a thing at the time, but I didn't really use them. I was still handwriting my papers, and I was very much like, I don't know. I don't want to say anti-technology. It's just, I didn't care about it. I cared more about reading books and interacting with people and creating. And I think right now in the time that we're living, I worry sometimes that basic fundamental of conversation and communication is lacking in a very real way. We've got to get back, and I think it comes from artists, and I think it's the responsibility of artists. We've got to get back to the point where we talk to each other and communicate. Because when you do, you actually talk to somebody and you get to know them and their story, you'll find that you have common ground, even though you thought you didn't. And also at the same time, you'll find that every single human being on this planet is totally different than the other human being that's sitting next to them. And they might have different viewpoints about the environment, and they might have different viewpoints about family, and they might have different viewpoints about food or how to drive a car or whatever it might be. But none of us is identical. And I think what social media is trying to do is make us all think the same and act the same and look the same and be the same. And we aren't. And that's not real civilization. That's not real culture. That's not real communication. And so I find that if you can sit down and talk to people and really communicate with them, not only do you, create great interaction and great empathy and great love for your fellow man, but you can fix anything. You can fix anything. And I think it's lacking. I think it's lacking, and I think we need more of it. So that's what I mean by that.
I'm just gonna sit in that for a moment. Yeah, well, it's beautiful to hear you're so passionate about that and so committed and so resolute. It's really wonderful to see. What stands out to me is you can fix anything. I love that because I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to words, right? The words that we use. So when you say you can fix anything, does that imply that there are things that are broken that you can go and fix, so it becomes a forward motion? Or is it anything that comes at me that is a problem can be fixed with communication? I'm just curious to dig in there a little bit more.
Always forward.
Yeah.
Because I think as a society, and I think as artists too, I think it's the responsibility of artists to shape and shift the culture. Mm-hmm. It's our job, and present it in a way that is honest and truthful and helpful,
What is your definition of living in the moment?
Being present and enjoying everything that is there, right there, no matter what it might be. If you're hanging out with your kid and having a conversation with your kid, if you're throwing the ball for your dog, or talking to your neighbor, or cooking a beautiful meal, or it's being there with it and then making it the best that it can be every moment. because ultimately, isn't that all we have? We only have the moment. So that's what it is to me. It's just, I don't know. I guess I look at life almost like any artist would. And that if it's art, it's good.
Or everything is art, right? We could just go there.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. I believe so.
And shouldn't it be?
Yep.
I mean, that's what makes life fun.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's just that everyone can't see it. And that's again where it comes into us to sort of allow them to see it, to give the, through the lenses that you use as whatever you're doing, because you're certainly a multifaceted artist, you use different ways, just as I now use, coaching to open up people's, what they already know. It's not like I have all the answers. I don't have the answers. The answers were there. I just know how to ask the right questions so that you realize that, oh, it's there. I didn't notice that.
That's right. And that's also, that talks to how much we need each other, by communicating with each other and engaging with each other, we get bright ideas and our world expands.
Yeah.
And our community expands and our ideas expand. And then we can come up with solutions and we can help each other more. We can fix things, not just fight about it.
Totally. Well, and that's interesting because that's a great distinction, because it's not that we mind things that need fixing or things that stop us, right? Because and I'm getting this sense from you, the problems aren't problems. They're just opportunities to learn. That didn't work. I'll go in a different direction. Right. So,
right.
It's kind of like that, it's just a different mindset, right? The infinite mindset, really, versus that. What happens to so many is that the problems come and then it's over. It's binary, right? It's like win, lose. It's over. It failed. It's unfixable. Or worse, let's just ruminate here. And then it just becomes fighting. And then you forget what you're fighting about. And oh my Lord, right? I mean, it's
totally. Yeah. And I think a lot of artists get caught in that too. A lot of people who are creative, like they'll hit barriers.
Yeah.
And they stop then creating in the direction they want to go in, because they feel like there's, artists are sort of superstitious, which I don't think they should be, because they get into this weird, and I've talked to so many artists about this, and they go like, well, it just wasn't meant to be. And I'm like, no, no, the world is designed to create barriers and to present you with barriers. Because it's not a game unless you have barriers. It would be boring if every door that you walked into was open and wide open and you won every single time. That would be boring. It's not a game.
Well, there'd be no growth.
None. And also just no challenge, like how boring.
Yeah.
So, I always say to artists, like, yeah, so what? So you failed. So you do it again. Or you didn't get an agent. Great. Get another one. Yeah. Keep creating, keep writing letters, keep communicating. Like it's superstition, which doesn't belong in the world anymore.
I love it. Well, yeah,
science and reason and enlightenment now. So, we just, don't be superstitious. If you want to create and you want to go expand and you want to create some art and communicate to people about art, then go do it until you've done it.
Mm-hmm. I believe that curiosity is one of the biggest tools that we have to interact with everything. It's fear that comes up that shuts us down and gives us an excuse so we can understand why it happened, right? We go, no, it was just meant to be. That's better than saying I failed, at least, right? Whereas if you came in with curiosity, you'd come in and go, well, that didn't work. I mean, it's a lot lighter initially, right? And then I wonder why. And then you start exploring, and then you start learning, right? And you disempower the thought. You disempower. I mean, that's the work I do, right? Literally, because you're right. As artists, we do that because we're so passionate and we're so driven. Yeah. And I talk a lot about how our strengths, and we all have a lot of them, right? And we feel, right? Whereas it's so visceral for us.
Oh yeah.
Our strengths, though, are often our Achilles heel, because when they don't work, and they so often do, it sets us up for a bigger fall. So even though it feels like it's always working, then when it suddenly doesn't, you go, shit, you have no practice.
Yeah.
So the sort of acknowledging that this works, but maybe I should try a different way, even though this is working. Like I have clients
Totally.
who do things
Right.
the same way because it works. I go, yeah, but have you tried something different? Just so you have another tool. Think of it as a tool, not a way of being, right?
Yeah. And the thing is that about, artists, which is so annoying to us when the thing doesn't happen, is that we see it. We can see the whole thing. We can see the whole universe. It's already in our space. And so when other people don't duplicate it, or they don't understand it, or they don't get it, it kind of blows you away. You're like, what do you mean you don't get it? This is like so simple. It's like, I can see it, all of it. But a lot of the time the world doesn't get it.
No.
They just don't get it. But it's not your job to convince people of it.
No.
It isn't. It's your job to just make it happen. And the thing is, like, you'll meet enough people along the way who will support that vision. If you communicate really excitedly and with a lot of enthusiasm, people will come on board and help you to create a vision. Because they'll be excited too, So it's your job to sort of take that fake world that you have in your mind and then somehow translate it into the real world. And when you get it, it's awesome. And when you don't, it's like, oh God, what am I missing here? What happened? Okay, well, whatever. Next time I'll have more money or more time or whatever. Right. And that's it. I experienced that with my own movie. Like, there are things I would do differently now. I can look back at that movie and I go, I would do more of this, or I would change this, or I would change that. But in the moment, as I was creating it and taking it from written word to reality, it was like magic. It was like, oh my God. And so many things about it were better than I thought it was going to be. And that happens too, right? You're like, oh my God, this is better than what I even saw. Well, good. Well, great. This works. Awesome.
Totally. And it's funny because you're talking about virtual reality, right? When we create something, it's virtual reality when we have it in our head and we want to bring it out. But then there's another virtual reality, which is the story we tell ourselves about the story that we want to bring out into the world. And that's the dangerous story, not the one that you're creating that's beautiful for everybody, but the one that you're creating for yourself about how no one's understanding and it needs to come out. And then that's what blocks us. And it's exactly what you said, is that, it's not even that you need to try harder, or smile bigger, or knock on more doors, so much as you just need to know that if you just keep connecting to who you are and what your why, let's say, is that the right people will find you. I really believe that story.
Well, and artists are infamous for just invalidating themselves consistently.
Yeah.
And that's something I had to unlearn because it's all I did. I would just spend my time going, oh, I screwed this up, or I didn't get that, or I tried, or I got so close and then I failed. And then, oh, they don't like me. And what did I do? Did I make them feel weird? Why happened? I guess okay, I'm not worthy. Like it's a horrible game to play.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no point in it. You know what I mean? Because if you're a good person, you're down to earth and you give a crap about people, you will find, that's another thing too. You'll find your people, which I have consistently over and over again, but also you'll find your audience, like
Bingo.
Create art that's great and fun, and you will find the audience, you'll find your audience. That's the thing, is there's all kinds of people out there. So don't doubt yourself, just go and create, and then get rid of it and be done with it and create again, and then get rid of it, be done with it and create again.
Well, if you had to choose one highlight and one low light from your life journey, what would those be and why, do you think?
I think one of my highlights, was probably the first job. This was the first TV show that I ever booked. And I wasn't expecting to get it. And I got to set and I got to work with Dennis Farina, who was a Chicago guy. So a fellow Midwesterner. And he was just so awesome with me. He was so nice, and he talked to me about stuff, and we reminisced about the Midwest. And then I got to meet Beth Grant, who was, she's a known character actress, and she was also just super awesome. And it was my first time on set, and they put me at ease, and they made me feel good, and they were complimentary, and they were some of the most lovely people that I've ever worked with. And that was my first job.
Wow.
So that was a big highlight. It was such a nice introduction to the industry.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, I get to be around these awesome people and they're just like me. This is great. You know, low, there was a time when I was, when my son was young, maybe about 3 or 4 years old, where I really thought about giving up acting and filmmaking. And I was like, maybe I should do something else. I decided to sort of take a break from it for a little bit, just withdraw from it and take a break from it. And I took about a 6-month break where I wasn't auditioning. I wasn't creating on it at all. I wasn't writing. I wasn't trying to do anything. And in that 6 months, what I realized was that I didn't like giving it up, one thing, but also I realized that I had stopped enjoying it because it wasn't fun anymore. The joy of it had gone for me. And I wasn't doing it from the viewpoint of I'm doing this because this is fun and this is exciting and it makes me happy and I love it and this is fun. This should be fun. So in that 6 months, I was like that. I sort of realized that and I was like, okay, I'm going to try again. And this time I'm going to make it fun again. And I'm going to just have fun with it. And I'm going to do these auditions. I'm going to show up and I'm going to talk to everybody. And I'm not going to care if I book or if I don't. And then literally I started booking again. When I started again, when I decided that this was going to be something that was going to be pleasant and fun and I could enjoy it again. But that's what I realized. I realized I had gotten too serious. And that's a real killer for any artist or creative, getting too serious about it and significant. It's really difficult to create when you're too serious. It's really, really, really hard.
It's interesting because it sounds like actually your low point really created a true high point. What's ahead for you? Is there something out there that you sort of maybe toyed with at the back of your mind that you haven't actually sort of put out in the universe, but that you'd really like to do that maybe just seems crazy or exciting, or is there anything there?
Yeah, I think for me, I think what I'm looking at now, sort of because I've accomplished certain things in my life and in my career that I'm proud of. And then I'm like, okay, good. I've written a novel, I've made a movie, I've done commercials, I've done music videos, I've won awards, I've worked with these kinds of people, I've worked with those kinds of people. I was in LA, I did that. But now what I'm looking at is just more training and education, actually. So I want to learn other skills that I can then use and apply to this thing that I do in my life. Right. So I'm looking at rappelling. I'm looking at stage combat. I'm looking at martial arts training, horseback riding. I'd like to learn how to do stunt driving, like with cars and stuff like that. Because I have a few friends who do that and they're really good at it. And I'm like, oh, that's a skill I could learn.
Yeah.
And just sort of upping the ante, just becoming really, really, really competent in a bunch of different areas. So when it comes time to create, or if I want to write something and I want to put that in, I could, and then I could do it,
Are you someone, it sounds like you're someone that, well, you are someone clearly that likes to be able to do all the things, right? Just because right? She's laughing, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
So is there, I'm just curious, like, is there, and are there any areas that you might consider sort of saying, no, even though I could do that, I'm going to hire someone to do that so that I can put more of my energy here. Do you ever feel like you get spread too thin?
I mean, I'm pretty good at delegating. I mean, this last movie that we did was a micro budget film. So a lot of people don't know about it, but I handled a lot of it. I did all the pre-production basically all on my own. So all the fundraising, the location scouting, the casting, the costuming, the props, the art direction, all of that I did all on my own. And I gave myself 6 months to do it. I said, I have 6 months and so that's all I get. And then the shoot's going to happen in July. So I have 6 months to do pre-production, and that's how I sort of stretched my main budget. And I used about like a quarter of the main budget on the shooting schedule, because we did everything in 17 days. We shot the whole damn movie in 17 days. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I had a little bit left over for post, but I did some of the post. I edited the movie, the main structure, did color correction and stuff like that, and then handed it over to another editor who sort of finalized and tightened. And but I don't know. I like that. I like that aspect of it. But when we were doing the main shoot, I had a great DP. I had a few grips and ADs, and I just had a really good, competent team. I mean, we were still a tiny team, though. We made that whole movie with just 10 crew. We only had 10 crew for that whole film.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
unheard of.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
But I find that really exciting. I think all of that's really exciting. But again, that comes from my theater background, right? Because it's the same thing with theater. You have to, it's a small amount of people who's doing something very extraordinary.
Totally. But it's interesting that you said that, because I was just going to ask you the question, where does that come from? But I would wager that it comes from way deeper. It comes from you. And I was getting yeah, I mean, for sure, it was modeled by theater, that kind of thing. But you lit up. I mean, you positively lit up when I said the right thing. I said, what did I say? That's unheard of. You said, yes, it is. That's unheard of. And it was beautiful. But where does that come from? Where does needing to do things to astonish people? And it's not like an ego thing, but it's like this showing how capable you are. But where does that come from?
I don't know. I think it comes out of necessity, because I've always kind of done that. I've always done that. I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. It's something. I've been in the industry so long, and I've been around it so long, that I just know how to do all this shit.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but no, because I'm going to challenge you on that, because everybody's not like that.
Everybody, no, I know.
Nor would they want to be. You know what I mean? It is amazing that you can. And obviously you're someone who's when I asked you what your biggest dream was, it was to learn more so you could do more. So that's cool. That tells me something. There's no right or wrong answer, but it teaches me a lot about you, right? By the way you answer. And so that's really interesting. When I offered you, what if you had the means to say, you guys do this because I really want to focus here. You're like, yeah, I could delegate. But I want it. So I'm so curious, and maybe this is another call.
I think when I was just acting, when I I'll give you examples. When I was working in the industry in LA, and I get hired just as an actor, right? Mm-hmm. It was really boring. I found it really boring.
Do you know what I mean? Enough. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, it was there's a lot of waiting and sitting and waiting. And you don't really have much of a say, and you kind of got to fit into the story, and either you're going to deliver what they need or you won't. And I've never been fired, thank God, but I'm sure there was a time where I probably got close to being fired, because I remember one music video I did, and the director was really mad at me. It was magic hour, and they were trying to get the last shots, and I didn't hit the mark on the first thing, and he just railed on me. And he didn't rail on anybody else. And they were all screwing up because I was watching everybody,
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I better get my stuff together. I better hit the mark on that second take, or I think I'm gone. But it's boring. It's very boring not to to just sit there and wait. So I think I find a lot of joy in the creation of bringing something visually together, I guess. Yep. That's where it comes from, is because I have high standards, you know what I mean? Again, this was a micro budget movie. People thought that we spent millions of dollars on this movie. They thought we spent millions of dollars on this movie. And there are a few people are like, I'm not going to even tell you how much money we had, because it will be so unbelievable to you. But I have those high standards. And so I know what I can do. And so it's just more fun, just more interesting, more fun. And that's kind of how I see myself. I'm like a storytelling filmmaker,
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. So how do you re-energize yourself? Like, how do you recover? Because as we all know, as creatives, when we birth something, there's the postpartum, right? The adrenaline can take you so far, right? Capability
Totally.
can take you so far. How does Ryann take care of herself?
Especially with movies, it's such a long process, right? Because from shooting it to finishing it to then promoting it to getting it out there to doing media is a several year process, first
Mhm.
of all.
Yep.
So you have to have enough enthusiasm the whole time to be rah, 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 even though it's 2.5 years later. And I think it's the getting back on the horse and doing that process again, right? It's the sort of saying, okay, great. So I have to do another 2.5 year process,
Mhm.
especially if it's my own project. Now, it's one thing to like do somebody else's project. It's a lot easier,
Yeah.
but it's
Oh, yeah.
sort of saying, okay, you've got to sort of, um, power yourself up like the Energizer Bunny,
Yeah.
be like,
How
you
do
can
you,
do
how do
this
you
thing.
do that though? Like, it's interesting because I'm interested in the place between the two projects. Like when something is quote unquote undone, is something already been started, or do you ever create space for yourself to get that? And if not, then how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I'm always working because even when I'm not working on a movie, I'm producing and directing commercials, company videos. I do voiceovers. Like I also have to pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
between everything. For me, like there are certain things that I like to do to get in the headspace of the different hats that I wear.
Mm-hmm.
So like writing, like when I want to write or I have an idea or a bright idea, it helps me to be in nature, places that are quiet, up in the mountains, out in the country, where I'm not sort of going to hear the neighbors or lawnmowers or people yelling or whatever, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or traffic.
Yeah.
So it helps me to sort of get out and then it's easier for me to write. I'm the kind of person who'll get in a car and drive out to the mountains and hike for like an hour or two and
Mm.
be in the middle of nowhere with nobody around. That's
Yeah.
like my happy place.
Okay.
And then that's how I breathe and sort of get space. And I find that when I do that, then it's easier for me to go back into things and to get energized again and to want to write and want to create and want to get into the nitty gritty of stuff, you know?
It's perspective too, right?
Yeah.
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 It's interesting too, because the boredom piece, when you talked about acting being boring, it seems like that actually motivated a lot of stuff too, being bored. So maybe just going away and not doing anything is enough. Like maybe it is the outdoors, maybe it is altruistic, or maybe it's just that when you stop doing it, you get bored and that energizes you.
Yeah. But I do love nature though, man. I am like a
I know.
huge nature person.
I'm teasing you.
But you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. No, I totally do.
Yeah.
What do you not want people to know about you?
Not want people to know
Yeah.
that I can get very lazy. I can get very lazy. Sometimes I get to the point where I hit the wall and I don't want to do anything.
Mhm.
I don't want to do anything. But I'm not very good at not doing anything. My husband and my son will attest to that. They'll be like, "Mom, please sit down and watch this movie with us." And I'm like, I don't know. Dishes need to be done. Things need to be handled. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I could sit here for 2.5 hours not doing anything. But again, I think that's where nature and getting space comes in.
Yeah.
Because if I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I don't have a choice but to be out in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What do you know will stay true about you no matter what happens?
That I care about people, that I really want people to do well. I think that's fundamentally what I care about most. People deserve to have really happy lives. And if they work hard for it, they should be able to flourish and prosper. And that's really important to me. So that's what I care about.
Mm, that's beautiful. How do you want to be remembered?
I think I want to be remembered as somebody who was a really good friend,
Mm,
and that people knew they could count on me, somebody who was very loyal, and I want to be remembered for the pretty and beautiful things that I created and the joy that I brought to people's lives,
Yeah.
I want to be remembered as the person who was like, she was a great friend. She always made me feel better when I hung out with her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I walked away feeling better about my life. I felt like I could come up with solutions. And I hope I can do that. I hope that's how people will remember me.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So can you finish this phrase? Most people think Ryann Liebl is, but the truth is.
Maybe that like everything in my life is perfect, which I think a lot of people assume about a lot of people lately.
Yeah.
Right. But the truth is that I'm a constant work in progress.
But the cool thing is that you love work. So it's a win-win. What a surprise. It's a win-win with you. All right. So we're going to do, to finish, we do the rapid fire. So I say, what makes you? And then you just respond as quickly or not as you like.
Okay.
All right. So what makes you hungry?
People.
What makes you sad?
Insanity, I guess, makes me sad.
What inspires you?
My fellow human beings inspire me.
What frustrates you?
Frustrates me. Incompetence.
Fair. I thought you were going to say my fellow human beings. No.
Yeah. No. I have more faith in them.
I love that. I love you have this like undying faith in humanity. I love it. It's amazing.
I really do. Yeah,
so
I like
refreshing.
People.
It's great. I'm with you on, I mean, I see the potential in everyone, but not everyone can see that way. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
What makes you laugh?
I guess ridiculous scenarios, like things that are just ridiculous. That makes me laugh. Yeah.
All right. What makes you angry?
Angry. I don't know. I don't get angry a lot anymore. Angry. I mean, I guess people that are horrible to people. They don't treat people well. They don't,
Yeah.
They don't make good decisions. They make decisions that are bad for people. That makes me angry. When anybody sort of tells me not to do something or goes after me, I get into, well, I'll show you.
Yep. Totally. It motivates you.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, fine.
100%. I remember writing down in prep for our interview saying I might even venture to say that she thrives on obstacles.
I don't know. I'd like to have less.
Well, everybody likes to have less, right? But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe as you start to get more of a meta view of life too, right? And going, okay, you like the acknowledgement of how far you've come.
Totally.
And to maybe let that go a little bit and go, okay, I can still get over any obstacle and I can fix anything, but I don't have to.
That's right. Exactly. Isn't that nice? I think that comes with age too.
Yeah.
Where you kind of go, you know what? I don't have to spend any time on this at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas when you're younger, you think everything has to have an equal amount of time.
Everything needs to be addressed. Yes. And it's funny because the one question I didn't ask you, because I had a feeling that it would take us off on a tangent for an hour, was what is your, but think about it. What is your relationship to time?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I look at time as like sort of never ending.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always like, what can I get done in a certain amount of time? And then what's in my future?
Yeah.
Because you can't get everything done in a lifetime. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. You can get a lot done in a lifetime. And there are people who are so high production that I'm so impressed with.
Yeah.
That have gotten so much done. And I'm like, I don't know how they do that. Right.
Yeah.
But I always look at it as like the future's never ending, immortality. What's next after this? And it just, to me, it just keeps going.
Oh, I love that. I'm glad I asked you, actually. Yeah, that's really beautiful. And finally, what makes you grateful?
I guess the lessons that I've learned in life, you know, the lessons of loss, and having been around really amazing people and amazing family members, and the lessons that I've been taught by people who are good people and who went through a lot and lived through a lot, and then were nice enough to share that information with me. You know,
totally.
History, right? Because I feel like if you don't know history, if you don't know how it's been on this planet, then it's very hard for you to be grateful about what's happening right now at this time. And there is so much to be grateful for right now at this time. And that's only because I know history, and I had amazing grandparents who taught me about history and went through horrible things in their lives, depressions and world wars and horrible things. And they were kind enough to share their stories with me and let me know about those things. So right now, at this time, I could be grateful for peace and no war and food on the table and relative calm, right? It's been relatively calm for us. So there's so many things that I'm grateful for, because my God, I wouldn't be able to be an artist right now if we weren't in the state that we're in as a country and a nation and as a world. I wouldn't be able to be actually creating it. It wouldn't be viable. It wouldn't be possible. So I'm grateful for a lot.
Yeah, totally. What are the top 3 things that have happened so far today?
The top 3 things? Well, definitely this has been great. I put this at number 1. I finished a project. We finished a script on a project, which was pretty cool because I have to wrap that up. And then dropping my son off at school was the other one. And we had a great conversation on the way to school, and then dropping him off was the other highlight.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And what's something you're looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? That's a great question. I don't know. An evolution, a reawakening. I think a lot of people right now are really waking up. And I think if COVID did anything, it made people look at their lives and look out at the world and get more involved and get more active and care again about how we're all living and how we're all surviving. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to, just sort of. And I hope that there's some sort of evolution in the art world too. I hope that having it taken away has motivated people to go, you know what, we've got to put it there, and we've got to make it never go away again.
Yeah. Amen. It's been so wonderful speaking with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I've been speaking today with Ryann Liebl. I'm Lisa Hopkins. Thanks for listening, everyone. Stay safe and healthy, and remember to live in the moment. In music, stop time is that beautiful moment where the band is suspended in rhythmic unison, supporting the soloist to express their individuality. In the moment, I encourage you to take that time and create your own rhythm. Until next time, I'm Lisa Hopkins. Thanks for listening.